Hello and welcome to another episode of the Illuminated podcast. Today we're all about wood season, but first, how's water season been for you? Have you been finding ways to bring in stillness and attune to your inner intelligence? Have you noticed what it feels like in your body when you're in coherence and when you're not? There's wisdom in both states. What themes or sensations or ideas have been rumbling up for you during this transition from winter to spring, from water into wood? There's guidance there too. So today, like I said, we're going to dive all the way into wood season, into springtime. And this is the place of, it's the place where the energetics kind of reverse and move against gravity. It's all about upward, expansive growth. We're going to be talking a little bit about dreams and the imaginal realms. And it's really about this directional movement, as well as attunement to our life purpose, or as we say in Taoism, our heavenly mandate from the above, visioning it down into forward movement and into actionable steps in our lives. But first, I want to talk about where we are in this early spring. Do you notice that I call it the springtime hem and haw? It's that first kind of dance between, winter and spring, where it feels kind of like this back and forth, or this stopping and starting, or this jerky, jolty feeling that happens in those last little wisps of winter and the first weeks of spring. It really does feel like that dance between the two energetics, and it can be disorienting, a little discombobulating, a little bit frustrating if you're really tired of winter. But it's important. It's an important kind of integrational moment. And the equinoxes, spring and fall or autumn, just like the solstices, are big harmonization points. They're places in nature where we get to, or have the opportunity to, recalibrate and recenter. And I think that's important. We need that time to kind of get little tastes of what was and what's coming, so that we can kind of, like I said, further integrate the shift instead of it being this kind of stark, cold turkey, all of the sudden jarring shift into the new. So we need that hem and haw to recalibrate and reset, for the new energetics to have a solid foundation. Just as there needs to be disillusion and some chaos while the old evolves into new. The joys of transformational times. And it's all on purpose for purpose. Okay, so before we kind of dive into the nuts and bolts of today, of the wood element, I wanted to kind of help us land and kind of further integrate this seasonal shift into our physicality. And this will be a really great resource for you to come back to throughout this season, or anytime that you feel your wood element, or, specifically your liver and gallbladder systems needing some support. So, and, we'll talk more about what that looks like later. But for right now, in this moment, I want to kind of come into our bodies. So find a comfortable place to sit or stand if that feels good. Arms resting easy. Eyes closed or gazing softly. And we're going to begin to slow our breath. We're going to come down into our bodies as our awareness of the outside world dims and fades. We become more aware of the inside of our bodies, noticing the top of our heads, our sinuses, our throats, our shoulders, our chests, just noticing how it feels in there, down into our bellies, our pelvic bowls, feeling ourselves held by gravity in our chairs or on our feet, moving down into our knees, and all the way into our toes. We're coming into our bodies and just noticing how it feels in there. Saying hello to anything that pulls our attention on our way. Now, coming back into your core, the area of your body between your jaw and your pelvic bowl, and specifically bringing your attention to the area of your lower right rib cage, the place in your body where your liver and gallbladder, the organs governed by the wood element, live. We're going to start sending loving or caring or grateful energy to these brilliant and very hardworking organ systems. Smiling at them in your inner vision, you notice your heart space expand, any tension ease, and your extremities warm as your liver and gallbladder smile back at you. Now we're going to work with the liver's healing sound, still sensing into our bodies, and taking this deep, slow inhale. And while exhaling, you're going to make the liver healing sound. So on your next exhale, make the sound noticing how your body responds to this sound. Take another good deep inhale and exhale. One more inhale and exhale. Feel free to come back into normal breathing, nice and slow and steady breath. Thank your liver and your gallbladder, your brilliant body, all your cells, all your stringy bits, for the ways they care for you all day, every day. And when you're ready, come back into the room, wiggle your toes, open your eyes. I love that meditation so much. I love the healing sounds a lot, but the liver healing sound for me really resonates, and I have felt physical tension ease in making that sound. So I hope you enjoyed it. Come back to it. Take it with you. Make it your own. Feels good. Okay, let's hop into the wood season resonances. These are all of those things in the world that we see in springtime or in resonance with wood energetics. So, as I hinted to or said multiple times, the season of wood is springtime. So this year it's starting, it's a process. It's divine timing. It's not a calendar date. It's more about the shifts that you sense and perceive in nature over a period of time. But according to the calendar this year, spring equinox is on March 20th, 2026, and summer solstice is June 21st, 2026. So thereabouts is wood season this year. And the organ officials that the wood element governs are the liver and gallbladder. We're going to be talking a little bit more about them here in a minute. The time of day governed by the wood element is the gallbladder time is from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And the liver time of day is 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. I bet you might wake up sometimes during those times. There's a lot of waking activity in these times, and that can be some information about how your liver is doing or how your wood element is doing. Emotions of the wood element are anger and imbalance and any flavor of those. But also I think just as, or even more importantly, is this idea of healthy aggression, that oomph that we need to move forward and break through the soil and take the next steps in our journey. And the life phase governed by the wood element, as you can imagine, is the sprout. Those first little green goodnesses that pop up at the first part of springtime. And the color governed by the wood element is green, all shades of green. This kind of fresh poppy green, it can be dark, deeper green, all kinds of greens. And that's going to be handy for, food, like knowing about what foods to eat, but also green color vibrationally resonates with the wood element. So anything that's green is going to be in resonance or supportive to or enlivening to the wood element. The odor associated with the wood element is when it's imbalanced, it's rancid smell, kind of like old oil, like rancid oil. And when the wood element is healthy, it's more like fresh cut grass or wood. It's kind of a wonderful smell, actually, which is funny to say about smells of bodies, but it is a good one when it's healthy. The sound of the wood element is shouting. And that can be like this exuberant, like, I'm here kind of shouting. And it can be ragey shouting. It can be angry kinds of shouting. And you'll notice it in different tones or in different people in different seasons when their wood element comes out. And as we talked about earlier during our meditation, the healing sound for the wood element is that shh sound. The flavor of associated with the wood element is sour, and we're going to kind of go a little bit deeper into that here in a little bit. And the sense organs associated with the liver are the eyes. So the eyes, as they are for physical vision. And I think, a lot of us know that when the liver is impaired or when there's kind of some jaundice things happening, the whites of the eyes turn kind of that yellowy kind of color. It's more specifically the whites of the eyes are associated with the liver, but it's also vision. When there's certain liver imbalances, there can be floaters in the eyes. Lots of things can happen with the eyes with wood element imbalances, but also like imaginal vision, like daydreams and nighttime dreams and visions for our lives and visions for our futures. We'll talk more about that here in a second as well. And the body tissue associated with the wood element are all the stringy bits. I mentioned that a little bit really quickly in our meditation. The tendons and the ligaments and connective tissue and fascia, which is having a huge moment right now, as well as the interstitium, the sort of like in-between places that, information and fluids and intelligence runs through our body. So all of that is governed by the wood element. My teacher, Lori Deshar's mantra for wood season is I become. And that kind of really takes me back to that sprouting energy. And the spirit of wood season is the hun. And the hun is It's all about our capacity to dream and vision into the future. It's that special thing that we as humans can do where we bring our imaginings and our thoughts and our ideas down from the ethers, from the non physical, and make them manifest into physical reality through right and aligned action steps. The Hun, in dream time and in different kinds of imaginal states of consciousness, receives messages from spirit, from God, source, universe, however you hold it, and brings it down into our physical bodies where it helps us metabolize and integrate those messages into our physical being as nourishment for our becoming. The Hun is a really, really important. All of the spirits of all of the elements are incredibly important, but the Hun is special and I think has taken kind of a hit as we have moved away from, mystical and magical being and, having everything served to us. Our imaginations have kind of taken a hit with social media and AI and not having to find our own creative sparks. Everything's, we can plug something into something and it feeds it back to us. And that can, I think in some ways it can kind of help spur some creativity, but so far I think it's really caused us to take a hit there in the Hun. So anything that is, supportive of dreaming and imagining and connecting with ways of being in a different kind of state of consciousness that exercises that imaginal place is going to help nourish your wood element. And again, that wood energy gives us the capacity to rise up and expand out into our fullest expression with focused directionality, while also being deeply rooted in the essence of who we are. It's always going to be connected to that water element of who we are, the blueprint, especially when it's healthy. So again, go back to the water. It all comes back to the water, especially, in this year, like I've said, as we are moving into new becomings. We're moving into new ways of being in ourselves, in society, and nourished water or well-resourced water is going to support that kind of growth and that strong becoming. So if you haven't, check out the water episode. There's really important tools there. Okay, coming back to today though, the wood officials. So these are the organ systems that are governed by the wood element, and each official or each organ network belongs to each of the elements, but they also govern their own kind of dynamics, their own sort of functions and actions within our fields on multiple levels, including physical body functions and actions, energetic, emotional, and psycho-spiritual functions and actions. And because I am who I am, and I practice this medicine the way that I do, I want to focus today a little bit more on the psycho-spiritual aspects governed by the wood element. There's a lot of resource out there for physical, like what the liver does on a physical level, what a gallbladder does on a physical level, and maybe we'll come back to that, in some way, shape, or form in the future. But today, I wanted to talk about the psycho-spiritual aspects of these organ systems because I think that they are really up right now and will be, like I said, in this year of becoming and forward direction and, finding new ways and taking steps out into those new ways. So the liver is is the architect. It's that kind of architect energy. The liver is in charge of vision and planning and designing and imagining the big picture. It's the general who excels at strategy, the one who knows who I'm supposed to be and what gifts I have that support my purpose and my expansion into that purpose. The liver manages the flow of chi or life force, which allows us to spread and grow into the edges of ourselves and infuse our expansive becoming with our unique, authentic usness. So the liver is the vision, the visionary. The gallbladder is, I have such a special place in my heart for the gallbladder. We'll talk more about that here in a second, but the gallbladder is the foreman. The gallbladder is in charge of decisions and scheduling. It executes the plan each step of the way, each choice, each action, and each movement along the way, ensuring things run smoothly. It's the one that executes all the teeny little decisions and steps that make the liver's vision real. The gallbladder makes the judgments and decisions around who and what I need to make my plan real and action it into the physical. It's all about resources and circulating perseverance and determination. The gallbladder takes courageous action. It's the energy behind taking that first step forward towards our purpose or towards a goal. And the gallbladder is classically referred to in the ancient texts as the officer of central uprightness. So kind of this idea of from a centered, harmonious place, the gallbladder is the one that can sense kairos or divine timing and knows the right way to be and the exact right moment to make a move. So the gallbladder is the manifester of the liver's vision. And like I said, the gallbladder is such a special system in a ton of ways, and I think really overlooked even by practitioners of Chinese medicine. And I feel it's so important, especially in these times that we find ourselves in, that we're going to be doing a whole separate episode exclusively dedicated to the gallbladder. And I'm so excited about that. But for today, we're going to continue on with our psycho-spiritual look at wood energetics. So now coming back into this, we're going to look at some of the psycho-spiritual symptoms of a wood imbalance. So how imbalanced wood can present itself on a psycho-spiritual level. And in each system, there is multiple kinds of, I call them flavors, but different types of imbalance. And specifically here, we're going to be talking about excess types of wood imbalance or deficient types of wood imbalance. One is going to be, kind of more active and forceful, and the other one's going to be a little bit more subdued and or collapsed. But both here have the same underlying issue, which with the wood energy or the wood element, this underlying issue is an inability to grow into the self or in the direction of the Tao or, my unique path or purpose. Growth is impaired in some way. And just as we saw with water, these symptoms may overlap into a both and situation. So we can see some of these psycho-spiritual symptoms in both excess and deficiency. So it's, as always with nature, it's a spectrum and there's often overlap. It's not a linear black and white kind of way of being. So, with excessive types of wood imbalance on the psychospiritual level, and these can um, often be related to issues around substance abuse, addiction, trauma, abuse, or just constitutionally. Like, this is just kind of, I was born this way. So, some of those excessive psychospiritual symptoms of wood imbalance can look like lots of ideas and little to no follow through. It can also look like over planning or excess control of details. I get that way. When my wood is triggered. It can also look like self-sabotage, short fuses, irritability, frustration, rage. I have that flavor. And or constantly like pushing and fighting, sort of that like forceful, we're gonna make this happen no matter what kind of energy, which can be helpful when it's balanced and, kind of in that divine timing. But when it's just sort of like that forceful, no matter what, I'm going to get my way and we're going to do it this way, that's a wood imbalance. So on the deficient side of wood imbalances, it can look like timidity or fatigue, indecision, even hopelessness. And it can look like restless, dream disturbed sleep. Because as we talked about earlier, the Hun governs the dream world. Deficient wood imbalances can look like poor self-esteem, leaky boundaries, an inability to stay focused, or a lack of capacity to plan or vision or imagine. And some of that can also happen in excess states as well. It can also look like issues with time management or timing, lack of follow through, which we saw a little bit in the excess state, and then also this inability to move into our edges and stand up for ourselves and for what we believe in. That can be a wood imbalance. So, moving into some quick ways to support the wood element. We had that meditation. We're going to have a few other things here. But also, there's more tips for supporting wood energy within ourselves on our Instagram post that was about the 5 ways to prep for wood season. And then if you also wanted to check out a favorite wood acupoint, go find on Instagram the post about liver 5 or insect ditch and blue tansy essential oils. We shared about that last wood season, and those are still very relevant now. So check those out on Instagram. But some quick support tips for the wood element here. Sleeping before 11 p.m. because remember the gallbladder time starts at 11 p.m. So if we're asleep before 11 p.m., our bodies have time to kind of move into that restorative detoxification mode and also to kind of reset and recalibrate our emotional states of being. It gives us enough time to access the dream world in a way that we can receive those messages from spirit through our Hun and bring that down and metabolize it during those late night hours and early morning hours of the wood time. A favorite is spending time with trees and plants. I am a long time and proud tree hugger. And this specifically kind of taps into those imaginal realms where we're observing wood energy. We're observing trees and how they move and how they feel and how they stand tall and easily, flex and sway in wind. We're feeling into and being curious about their spirits and what those feel like and how they kind of present themselves in our mind's eye and in our heart connection with the spirits of the trees and plants. We can even listen for and ask them for guidance. And again, this takes tapping into those imaginal realms and being open to different ways of seeing and being with, our non-human family members that live here on planet Earth. That nourishes the wood element. And then coming back to the liver sound is a wonderful way to nourish and support wood energy. Stretching is incredible for the wood element, because you think about, like, what does wood want to do? It wants to grow up and out. And then eating seasonally always is a really wonderful way to nourish all of the elements, but with plenty of, those fresh greens popping out everywhere that people call weeds. There's an abundance of wood season nourishment around everywhere. I will say, if you are in a place that is chemically treated, don't eat the yard greens. Don't eat the chemicals. That is not a good plan. So switching over into the wood element food and sour flavor, we could talk about this for a very long time, because there is such an abundance of wood element nourishment. But, keeping it kind of short and sweet-ish, shortish and sweet, green foods are particularly nourishing for and supportive to the wood energy. It's that color resonance, like we talked about before, and therefore it's going to be supportive to the liver and gallbladder just innately. So seasonal eating, again, is very important. And in spring, it's all about those greens. So yard greens, like I mentioned, dandelion is a great yard green that I like. Literally, my mouth waters every time I see a bunch of that fresh dandelion pop up in my yard. And, you can just pull off a leaf and say thank you and eat it. If you want to eat the flower, you can too. Those are also delicious. Collards are wonderful greens. Kale, chicory, spinach, mustard greens, bok choy, Swiss chard, cilantro, parsley, beet greens, and beetroots are incredibly nourishing for the liver and gallbladder. Nettles as well. And then we want to be lightly steaming or quick stir frying these foods. Most people nowadays don't do well with digesting raw foods. They just don't. Long term, it's very depleting for digestive energy, for the spleen and stomach earth energetics. And so you will very rarely see me recommend eating raw anything. It's just too taxing on digestive energy. So a quick steam, quick stir fry are the best way to enjoy some greens. I also love some braised greens that are cooked for a little bit longer. Other green colored foods that are nourishing for the wood element include avocado, asparagus, cucumber, Brussels sprouts, green beans, leeks, peas, green onions, green peppers, zucchini, green apples, grapes, kiwis, limes, honeydew melons. The green fruits are less than the veggies, that's for sure. But one of my favorite green foods, and specifically nourishing to the liver and gallbladder foods, is broccoli, especially broccoli sprouts. And because of their high sulforaphane content, do some research on the sulforaphane off of the Google machine that is bought and paid for by Big Pharma, because it is an incredibly potent antioxidant, I believe, that helps detoxification of all kinds of things. It helps detoxify actual, like chemical toxins, body waste toxins. It helps detoxify used hormone metabolites that can kind of get stuck and bog things down. Sulforaphane in specifically broccoli sprouts is really incredible. And one of my favorite ways of getting it in, because, to eat enough broccoli sprouts a day to move the needle and really make a difference and an impact on those detox pathways is kind of a lot. It's like multiple pounds a day of broccoli sprouts. And you can totally get them in different kinds of ways. Definitely eat the food. But one of my most favorite ways is with a supplement called Brock Shot. And they come in these little pouches with this cute little green little shooter. And it's just ground up broccoli seed that you just it doesn't really dissolve in there, but you just put it in this water, shoot it on down, and you're done for the day. I've been recommending it to my clients and patients for about a year now, and I have noticed in myself, within the first week, I noticed a huge change in brain fog and joint pain. And then my first cycle after taking the Brock Shot, which I think was less than 2 weeks into it, I had no pain. And for me to have no pain with my cycle is almost unheard of. And so it's just gotten progressively better and better from there. So I'm a firm believer in this Brock Shot. I'm sharing my affiliate link in the show notes here because I think it's a really important thing. They also donate some or a lot of their proceeds to first responders and firefighters because first responders and firefighters specifically are exposed to incredibly high amounts of toxic chemicals. And one of their top, or if not their top cause of death is cancer. And so they donate product to firefighters and first responders to help avoid such things. So I love that company. They're great. As I said, I'm sharing my affiliate link in the show notes so that you can save $20 off your first purchase if you feel so inclined. Okay, so moving on to sour flavored foods. These sour flavored foods have a yin cooling quality most of the time. They cause a contraction in the tissues and in the field and have a grounding and astringent effect. The sour flavor is most active in the wood element or the liver and gallbladder, where it can counter the effects of rich or greasy foods and help to break down fats and protein. The sour flavor also aids in digestion to dissolve minerals for improved assimilation and bioavailability by our cells. Psychospiritually, the sour flavored foods can help sort of organize or astringe, kind of bring in scattered, ungrounded minds and harmonize the spirit and body during big shifts in seasons or in life. Some sour foods include lemons, limes, blackberries, raspberries, mango, tangerine, sour plum, pickles, sauerkraut, sourdough, yogurt and skyr, vinegars, tomatoes, grapes, and olives. There's so many more, but those are just a few. And I wanted to just share, save your citrus peels. Especially your tangerine peels. Let them dry out for a few days on your countertop. And I love adding a tablespoon or two of dried citrus peel to warm water with fresh lemon juice in the morning. I also like to add a dried Chinese jujube or red date. We call it dazao in Chinese medicine. I love Chinese jujubes. They're sweet and earthy, and they calm the spirit and nourish blood, and they're a really great way to kind of balance out those sour energetics. And I drink that in the morning time to help get my digestion going, to help motivate my metabolism, especially when my digestion feels sluggish. But if you're not into that, you can also add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to a quick shot of water before meals, and that helps regulate your blood sugar. I also use citrus peels in my most basic blend for yoni steaming, which maybe we should have an episode about that at some point because that's super important. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And I just want to say with the sour flavor foods, for those with earth imbalances or deficient earth elements, those with dampness in or heaviness in mind or body should take extra care with using sour flavors. Don't overdo it. No matter who you are or what imbalances you may or may not have, too much of anything is not a good thing. And specifically, too much sour flavored food can impair the earth element, which is why I like to add that Chinese red date into my morning citrus peel drink. So there's that. And we've already come to the end of our episode. I'm keeping it shorter this time. I don't know how long it's been, but it feels way shorter than normal. And that's on purpose to respect your time. And we cover a lot in these episodes. And so I wanted to kind of give an extra opportunity to integrate this, make it easier to come back to, because nourishing our wood element is super important anytime, but especially during springtime, and especially during this year's springtime, because we have so much emphasis on this new and forward movement and this becoming. So I hope you enjoyed dipping into the wood element and into the spring season with me today. There's so much happening here, so come back to this episode often, especially if you feel yourself feeling stuck or overwhelmed or uninspired as you kind of step forward into the new energies coming in. Be sure to pay attention to your dreams this season, both nighttime dreams and daytime dreams or life dreams. Notice any recurring themes or symbols or messages that come through in those spaces. There's wisdom there. There's guidance. Stretch often. Use our liver healing sound. And write down any visions or plans for your future that bubble up. They're on purpose, for purpose. And don't forget about our special gallbladder episode coming up in the next few weeks. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that. And in the meantime, I'll see you over on the Instagrams. And thank you again for being here. See you next time. Disclaimer, not medical advice. The information shared in this episode is for general entertainment and educational purposes only. It's not intended to replace consultation with a trusted and qualified healthcare professional. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have and before beginning any exercise, nutrition, or wellness program.